Power, fear, and loyalty are three forces that hold Vladimir Putin's grip on Russia tighter than ever. How does one man hold an entire nation in his hands? What makes him seemingly untouchable, even as cracks appear in the facade? Let's unravel the layers and explore why Putin is so difficult to topple. Vladimir Putin, Russia's enigmatic and controversial leader, has cemented his position as one of the most enduring figures in modern global politics. With his recent re-election for a fifth presidential term, securing an overwhelming 87% of the vote according to Russian exit polls, Putin has solidified his grip on power. At the age of 71, and with a combined 24 years as president and prime minister under his belt, Putin is now the longest-serving leader in Russia's history since Joseph Stalin, who ruled for 31 years. The Kremlin's tight grip on power. At the heart of Putin's dominance lies the Kremlin's unparalleled control over Russia's political landscape. Opposition within the country has been systematically dismantled, leaving Putin with virtually no credible challengers. This latest election was no exception, as the only other candidates on the ballot were either staunch supporters of Putin or token participants with no chance of mounting a serious challenge. Andrei Soldatov, a Russian journalist living in exile, explains that Putin has mastered the art of suppressing dissent. Putin knows how to eliminate any form of political discourse in the country, he says. Over the years, Putin's most significant political threats have been silenced, whether through imprisonment, exile, or even death. One of the most notable examples is Alexei Navalny, the outspoken Kremlin critic who, just a month before the 2024 elections, died under suspicious circumstances in a penal colony above the Arctic Circle. Officially, Navalny was serving a lengthy prison sentence on charges widely believed to be politically motivated. Similarly, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the former leader of the Wagner Group, who led a brief mutiny against Putin, was killed in a suspicious plane crash shortly after his rebellion. These high-profile deaths are emblematic of a broader strategy that leaves no room for significant opposition within Russia. The Kremlin's tight control over media, political institutions, and the judiciary ensures that no credible rival can emerge. Even during the most recent presidential election, Putin faced no serious competition. The other candidates either supported his policies or lacked the political weight to challenge him. By systematically removing dissenters and stifling criticism, Putin has ensured that he remains the unchallenged leader of Russia. The country's media landscape has been tightly controlled, with state-run outlets dominating the narrative and independent voices marginalized or shut down altogether. This monopoly on information has allowed the Kremlin to portray Putin as a strong, decisive leader who is indispensable to Russia's stability and prosperity. Defying the West. One of Putin's greatest strengths lies in his ability to position himself as a defiant leader standing up to the West. This narrative resonates deeply with many Russians, who view Western sanctions and criticisms as attempts to undermine their country. Despite facing some of the most comprehensive sanctions in modern history following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Putin has managed to project an image of resilience and strength. Western powers, including the United States and the European Union, have imposed strict measures against Russia, including freezing $300 billion in Russian assets. Many analysts initially predicted that these sanctions would cripple the Russian economy and lead to political instability. Instead, Russia has defied expectations, emerging as Europe's fastest-growing economy with an estimated growth rate of 2.6% in 2024, according to the International Monetary Fund. This economic resilience has bolstered Putin's popularity. By aligning Russia with global powers like China, India, and Brazil, Putin has managed to circumvent Western sanctions and maintain robust trade relationships. Additionally, neighboring countries such as Kazakhstan and Armenia have played a pivotal role in helping Russia evade economic isolation. This ability to weather economic storms has further reinforced Putin's image as a leader capable of defying the odds and standing tall against Western hegemony. Economic adaptability. One of the most surprising aspects of Putin's continued strength is Russia's economic adaptability. The sanctions imposed by the West were designed to cripple the Russian economy. but the country has managed to pivot successfully toward alternative markets and economic strategies. Trade with China has surged, with both nations deepening their economic and political ties. Similarly, India has become a significant purchaser of Russian oil, providing a crucial lifeline for the country's economy. Domestically, the Kremlin has implemented policies to stabilize the economy and mitigate the impact of sanctions. The ruble, although volatile, has been supported through strategic interventions by the central bank. Additionally, Russia's agricultural and energy sectors have remained robust, ensuring a steady flow of revenue despite international pressure. Building a war machine. Internationally, Putin has fortified alliances that serve Russia's immediate needs, even if they tarnish its reputation as a great power. Partnerships with Iran and North Korea have provided Moscow with critical military supplies, including drones and artillery shells, which have proven vital for sustaining its war efforts in Ukraine. These alliances may not carry the prestige of Western partnerships, but they ensure that Russia's war machine remains operational. Perhaps more importantly, Putin has maintained a close relationship with Chinese President Xi Jinping. During a state visit in May 2024, Xi reaffirmed his support for Russia, signaling that Beijing views Moscow as a strategic ally against Western dominance. This partnership offers Russia not only economic benefits, but also a geopolitical counterbalance to NATO and the United States. The contrast between Moscow's alliances and Ukraine's waning Western support is striking. While Russia has secured reliable backing from its partners, Ukraine has struggled with delays and uncertainties in receiving military aid from the West. This disparity has allowed Russia to sustain its momentum on the battlefield, further enhancing Putin's position. Reversing Ukraine's gains. On the battlefield, Russia has regained significant ground over the past year. In the Kharkiv region, Moscow's forces have captured several villages and displaced over 10,000 civilians in the process. These gains come on the heels of Russia's recapture of Avdiivka and other strategic locations, effectively reversing many of Ukraine's achievements from its 2023 counteroffensive. While these advances may not constitute a decisive victory, they underscore Russia's growing momentum. The Ukrainian military, constrained by shortages of weapons and ammunition, has struggled to mount a robust defense. Western aid, while substantial, has often been delayed or accompanied by restrictions on how it can be used, further hampering Kyiv's efforts. In contrast, Russia has shown no hesitation in mobilizing its population and resources for the war effort. From deploying convicts to the front lines to conscripting young Russians en masse, the Kremlin has demonstrated a willingness to make sacrifices that Ukraine, with its smaller population and limited resources, cannot match. A fraying alliance. The cracks within the Western alliance have become a significant factor in shaping the course of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, inadvertently strengthening Vladimir Putin's position. While NATO and the European Union maintain their overarching commitment to Ukraine, internal disagreements and political shifts have created a patchwork of support that complicates efforts to provide consistent aid. This fragmentation has given the Kremlin a strategic opportunity to exploit the West's weaknesses while presenting an image of cohesion among its own allies. Within the European Union, countries like Hungary and Slovakia have increasingly opposed continued military aid to Kyiv. Their reluctance reflects broader public fatigue with the prolonged conflict, as war weariness seeps into the populations of member states. These divisions within Europe are not merely ideological, they signal a growing struggle to sustain collective action in the face of mounting domestic pressures. The European Union's inability to present a fully united front creates an environment in which support for Ukraine becomes more conditional, sporadic, and uncertain. In the United States, the situation is even more precarious. Donald Trump's return to power following his victory in the 2024 presidential election will introduce a seismic shift in American foreign policy. Trump and his allies have openly discussed scaling back military and financial support for Ukraine, viewing it as a burden on US taxpayers and a distraction from domestic priorities. This potential rollback in aid represents a devastating blow to Kyiv, which has relied heavily on US assistance to counter Russia's military aggression. Even before Trump's election, the American political landscape was already marked by partisan divides on Ukraine. While President Joe Biden's administration had been a staunch supporter of Kyiv, the shift in leadership has brought new levels of unpredictability. Congressional debates over funding packages for Ukraine highlight growing isolationist sentiments within segments of the US government. For Kyiv, the stakes could not be higher. Western wavering directly undermines its ability to sustain its defense against Russia's advancing forces. In sharp contrast, Moscow and its allies have displayed a level of unity and resolve that stands in stark opposition to the West's fragmented approach. Putin's regime, bolstered by partnerships with Iran, North Korea and China, has remained steadfast in its war effort. For the Kremlin, the disunity within the Western Bloc represents not only a diplomatic victory, but also a strategic opening to prolong and potentially win the conflict. This fraying alliance underscores a critical juncture for Ukraine and its Western partners. If the divisions within NATO and the EU persist, and if the US significantly reduces its support, the scales could tilt decisively in Russia's favour. Conversely, overcoming these fractures and reaffirming a collective commitment to Kyiv could shift the momentum back to Ukraine, transforming what appears to be a bleak outlook into a potential turning point in the war. A relative, not absolute, strength. While Putin's current position appears formidable, it is important to recognise that his strength is relative rather than absolute. Much of his perceived power stems from the weaknesses and disunity of his adversaries. The West's failure to provide decisive support for Ukraine has allowed Russia to gain the upper hand, but this dynamic could shift if Kyiv's allies muster the will to act more decisively. Moreover, Putin's reliance on authoritarian tactics and international pariah states comes at a cost. His domestic stability is built on repression, which could breed resentment over time. Similarly, his alliances with countries like Iran and North Korea lack the depth and reliability of Western partnerships, limiting their long-term utility. The road ahead. As it stands, Putin is stronger than ever, with a firm grip on Russia and significant momentum in the war against Ukraine. However, this strength is far from invincible. The West still has the capacity to shift the balance of power if it can overcome its internal divisions and provide Ukraine with the resources it needs to counter Russia's advances. For now though, Putin's position appears secure, a testament to his ability to adapt, consolidate and exploit opportunities. Whether this will lead to a lasting legacy or eventual downfall remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. Vladimir Putin has reshaped Russia and its role in the world in ways that will reverberate for decades to come. What do you think? Will Putin's grip ever loosen, or is his power here to stay? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more thought-provoking content.